Hello everyone and welcome. My name is Enzo, your host here. We'll be talking about films, movies, pop culture, news, and all the like. In this particular video, we're going to be reviewing the film Prometheus. It's a sci-fi horror thriller film directed by Ridley Scott and written by Jon Spaihts and Damien Lindelof. I do apologize if I'm mispronouncing their names. The film was produced by Scott Free Productions, Brandywine, and Dune Entertainment. It was distributed by 20th Century Fox. Now, the director Ridley Scott, he's a talented director with a lengthy career of many successful titles, with starting his career mainly out in television, starting with some commercial work, and shortly after making his debut film called The Duelist, I have not seen, but he got his main source of recognition from his second project, Alien. So he's the original director of the Alien franchise, and though there have been many other installments in the series throughout the decades, I tend to prefer his over the others. He's made many other great films throughout his career over the decades, starting I guess with, let's say, Blade Runner, made in 1982. He made the first one, then directed The Martian in 2015, a good film adapted to the book of the same name, and also made the historical epic drama Gladiator, made in the year 2000. So you know he works hard and has great vision to produce these films, Prometheus being one of them. Now, before I go on, starting like listing the plot, the characters, and reviewing the film's characteristics like cinematography, editing, writing, pacing, lighting, and all that jazz, I first want to go over the film's reception. So the film was met with great praise at first for its unique style, fantastic cinematography, nice framing, good panning, and masterful use of both practical and special effects. So generally very well received. However, a lot of die-hard Alien fans were disappointed with the final result. You see, they were more accustomed to the horror thriller alien action that they've been seeing throughout the entire series, but this film is different from that. It's a standalone piece that's separate from everything that we've seen before, and kind of, I don't want to keep repeating the word separate, but it starts and breaks off on its own storyline. So generally very well received. However, the original die-hard Alien fans were disappointed with the end result, given that they were more accustomed to what they've seen in the other Alien franchise installments, like a lot of action, horror, more aliens, and explosions. Now, I enjoy going into films blind without knowing anything about the film other than the people attached to the project and the trailer. That's just because it allows me to enjoy the film as it is. It's a standalone piece. Yes, it is set up based on the Alien franchise and universe that exists in it, but it's a standalone film. It's original and tells its own story. So for all the Alien diehard fans who are hyped up and amped up to see more of the same slop they've been seeing throughout the decades in the previous Alien installments, they were pretty disappointed to see the thoughtful, masterful storytelling that was bestowed in front of them. When in reality, they're just too attached to the original. Why would you want more of the same anyways? Just go ahead and rewatch the originals. If you go into this film with a blank slate, expecting nothing, then you're going to be blown away by its awesomeness. Period. So now that we've got all that out of the way, we can go over the film's plot and characters and then characteristics of the film. Now, before I go into that, I do want to let you know firsthand if there are any spoilers. I will let you know as a spoiler warning beforehand. I might go over them more towards later the end of the video. I'm going to review the film very generally at first and then let you know a little bit later on. So you were warned and will be warned later on beforehand once I go over any spoilers. Moving on, I'll now go over the film's plot in a very summarized, concise manner. So, the film follows an accomplished crew of scientists on board the spaceship USCSS Prometheus with the main goal of finding the planet which they believe hosts the life forms that created human life. Essentially, they're trying to meet the people who made us and are wanting to answer some of humanity's most important and existential questions, like who are we? Where did we come from? If we were made, why were we made? I mean, do we really have a purpose? So those are some pretty tough questions to answer. So that's pretty much it. If you're literate or educated in any way, you've probably come across Greek mythology and have probably guessed the name Prometheus comes from the god or a titan who is known as a trickster, a master craftsman, and the god of fire. The mythology entails that he provided us humans with fire. It's symbolic for intelligence or enlightenment or just fire itself. He gave us this technology to help advance us in a way when the gods above in Olympus decided to let humans advance on their own merit, at their own rate. And for this, he was punished. He was punished by being chained to a mountain or a rock, if I'm not mistaken, to have his liver be picked at by some sort of eagle or like some sort of bird or raven for all of eternity. He's a god, so he's immortal, his liver just replenishes itself, and he's destined to suffer forever. So given that story, we can kind of assume that the ship Prometheus is destined for a similar fate, where these humans are playing with fire to look for and search for these answers. And as I mentioned earlier, fire is kind of symbolic for intelligence or information, and they're trying their best to find this information that's perhaps forbidden. Who's to say that we shouldn't even look for these answers and just focus on creating a meaning of life for ourselves? Not to mention that kind of name, along with the ending of Prometheus' story in the mythology, kind of foreshadows the negative events that may happen to the ship. Who knows? Moving on to the characters and cast, comprising of a list of very talented actors. First up, we have the star of the film, Noomi Rapace, who plays Dr. Elizabeth Shaw. I do hope I'm pronouncing her name right, Noomi Rapace. She's very talented. She does a really good job of all the other projects she's in. More on her character in the film. She's an accomplished archaeologist and paleontologist. I believe she has doctorates in both, if I'm not mistaken, how her character is kind of carried about. She's one of the many scientists enrolled in the expedition, and before I move on, I know I mentioned earlier, she is just an awesome actress. She's as talented as she is beautiful. I enjoy her in other projects. I see that she puts in a lot of effort in the things that she does. Even if the projects she's in aren't that great, it kind of seems like people around her are not doing their best when she's just giving it her all. I could just have love goggles on and saying such a freaking insane quote or compliment about that, saying, no, the entire production team is fucking up and she's the one who's actually awesome. But moving on, okay, we have Logan Marshall Green. He's Charlie Holloway. He's also an accomplished archaeologist and other scientist who's enlisted to help in the expedition. We have Michael Fassbender, who plays a crucial character, David. He's a humanoid android robot who assists the crew, and before moving on, I gotta say he does a great job of playing this character who's both subservient but also sentient. So you can see how those two things might not mix, and we'll talk more about that later. Next up, we have Idris Elba, who plays the captain of the ship. His character's name is Yannick, if I'm not mistaken, though it's spelled Janek. It's the future, whatever. People have pretty wonky names. I can only imagine they're going to do away with names like John or Brandon, and you're going to have people named like ExxonMobil or Starbucks or some shit like that. Next up, we have Charlize Theron, the talented and beautiful Miss Theron. She plays Meredith Vickers. She's the one in charge of the ship. I know we have the captain, Yannick, who's played by Idris Elba, who's the main captain. He just steers the ship. She's the one who kind of gathered the fundings needed to fund this expedition, and so they're all pretty much doing their own project, but she has her own agenda in mind. I'm not going to spoil it, but that's pretty much how her character is. She's the one in charge of everyone, just letting them do their own thing. And damn, she's as beautiful as she is talented. She's done great work in the past, this film included, and I can only imagine everything else she's going to be doing in the future is just as good. Hopefully she doesn't sell out though, and join a bunch of Marvel projects and hyper commercialized work. All of her best stuff is I don't want to say independent, small to mid scale. Moving on. So that's the cast, to name a few. Moving on, we're going to go over the characteristics of the film, like cinematography, special effects, practical effects, editing, writing, and all that jazz. First up, we're going to cover cinematography. If I can describe that in one word, beautiful. Just absolutely beautiful, absolutely breathtaking work done by the director of photography. His name is Darius Wolski. I do hope I'm pronouncing his name right. It seems foreign. It's spelled with a Z at the end, something like that. But he did a really great job of making you feel like you're on another planet, an alien world, a desolate place, and it all just comes together really well. For the sake of brevity, all the credit goes to him, though I know there were dozens of other crew members in charge of going ahead and gathering these shots of different landscapes all throughout. The film is great. It has impressive shots of these landscapes, beautiful camera panning work, and it really helps you feel like you are on this alien planet. The color use in this film is actually pretty decent as well. They'd like to use a lot of grays, and that's mainly to help emphasize the point I was talking about just earlier, and how it's a desolate place, it's just barren. Next up, we'll cover the special and practical effects that are helmed by a few talented people. First being the visual effects supervisor, Richard Stammers. Again, I do apologize for mispronouncing some of these names. These people deserve such great credit for how this film turned out. It's just beautiful. Next up, we have the film editor, Pietro Scalia. Again, another name that might be hard to pronounce. I hope I'm not saying it wrong. And then we have the production designer, Arthur Max. Pretty American, pretty English. I'm pretty sure I'm saying that right. All of these people came together to produce magnificent sets, special effects, and practical effects. They did such a great job of the film, and if you watched it or have watched it, you already know what I'm talking about. Everything looks awesome in this film, and I'm sure if you go ahead and watch it, if you haven't, you'll agree. I know they filmed on site for many of these shots using Iceland as a main spot to kind of have these long, nice landscape shots, and they didn't use dozens and dozens and dozens of scenes or shots full of like CGI or green screen. In fact, I think Noomi Rapace was quoted saying that they used green screen effects, so think like 6 times or less, throughout the entire making of the film. That's pretty impressive. Moving on briefly to costumes. I usually don't talk about costumes in films in these reviews, but everything looked great on everyone. Very natural, everything looked awesome. The spacesuits were my least favorite, but other than that, everything else seemed very, natural. Speaking of natural, let's just move on and talk about the acting of this film, which was just that, natural. And if you're in the industry, you know that that's a very high compliment you can give to an actor. Everyone in this film did a great job of flowing in their character and just being really believable. If I were to give any specific props to any characters who did the best acting, I'd say at first and obviously Noomi Rapace's character did a great job of everything she was doing, both like being as an observant scientist, running around in action scenes, and just overall doing a great job. Of course, a few other actors I could mention that did a great job in the film are Michael Fassbender. He did a great job playing David. And then we have Charlize Theron, who did a great job, though everyone else did a pretty good job. The pacing of the film is great in the way that events unravel and leave you expecting or really looking forward to the next event all really well. You're just in a hypnotic spell of focus. The attention to detail is pretty awesome in this film. And I can't move on to writing and all that other stuff before going back to a characteristic of the score. The music in this film was really good at setting the tone of awe, exploration, and fear. So all that was really well. It was all done by Mark Streitenfeld, if I'm saying that right. Really good music throughout the film. They did a great job of embracing the curious thriller type vibe that was decorated throughout the film. So really nice there. In terms of writing, I was really pleased how the story progressed, but a little saddened by the encounter they had near the end of the film, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's obviously not the case with this film. It's a very great film. The ending was somewhat satisfactory. Though it's not a happy ending, it's a decent one and still totally worth watching. In fact, I enjoyed the storyline a little bit more, not a ton more, but a little bit more than what was in the original Alien franchise, where there were just a bunch of people trying to survive aliens. And because of that, there's a lot more at stake in this film than in the previous ones, where it's just a survival horror thriller film, where in this one there are those elements sprinkled throughout, but they still have the main goal or mission of finding out why they were created, who's on this alien planet, what are they doing, what were their plans, etc. Besides that, the writing is totally great, full of great lines. Each of the characters were well thought of, Everyone provided such nice dialogue, and everyone did good work of foreshadowing future events, as well as giving the characters meaningful and tasteful depth. Like, what the hell? It's a $1 trillion spaceship with non-functioning necessities? I get it. Those functions probably didn't deploy successfully given that they didn't have enough time to warm up, but I don't know, it seems really odd to me. So another thing I really didn't like was that Dr. Shaw's character, played by Noomi Rapace, right at the end of the film, instead of taking, the safe passage back to Earth, she instead chooses to use the ship that the engineers are, which is the creatures or people that created humans. She instead decides to use their alien ship to go to their planet, to demand answers as to why they decided to scrap humanity as a project and murder us. They tried to, they had plans set out to kill humans on Earth, and that level of curiosity totally is nonsensical to me. I don't know why she would go ahead and do something so wild, especially after the horrific ordeal she just went through. Her reasoning is stated that she needs to know why they kind of wanted to kill us, and I understand that, but to me it makes no sense. Who's to say she couldn't have easily gone back to Earth to warn everyone about this, to provide evidence, and so that we could better prepare for this and perhaps even visit the planet again if she was so desperate to do so, and find out more answers and carry on from there at a more prepared scientific sense. To me, for her character, that made little sense, and it seems a bit egotistical from a rather calm-headed survivalist character such as herself. And now one can say two things. One, it nods to the title of the film Prometheus, in which we are always looking for enlightenment or fire or things that kind of burn us when we touch it in a way, and so that's why she's, kind of overstepping her reach. But for me, it doesn't really click that way, and I didn't really appreciate it that much. Didn't make sense to me. Two, people could say that it was a good thing that she went ahead and did that, given she went on this voyage with David, who had survived the ordeal, the sentient robot. And it's a good thing she didn't go to Earth, because it's likely that he would have betrayed her at the end and unleashed the poisons on the ship to kill all of humanity anyway. We find throughout the film that he's quite distasteful or has a disdain for humans. It's a good thing she didn't do that for those reasons, I guess. And let's see, one more thing. I'm sad to see Miss Theron's character didn't give us a lap dance. That's pretty much it on the things I didn't enjoy about the film. Now let's go ahead and move on to stuff I really enjoyed. The trick, Mr. Potter, is not minding that it hurts. Yeah, so basically all the scenes with David in it. I really think it's incredible to see this type of humanoid, sentient AI robot learn about human customs and not only think for himself, but study and think with his own agenda in mind. I think that adds a lot of good character. It's a very effective and interesting wrench to throw in a spectacular engine and give us an explosive form of storytelling. Other than that, pretty much the entire film I enjoyed. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Every Friday I'll be posting if I can. Be sure to comment on any recommendations you guys are looking for me to review, whether it be more recent, ongoing films and movies and TV shows and things like that, or really cool stuff from the past. That's going to be it. Thanks again for watching. You guys are the best. Take care. I'll see you in the next one.